Yeah, you guessed it, Gran Turismo 7 is broken once again. However, I would say this time it's absolute perfection. If you ask me, one of the main reasons I love the Gran Turismo series, I would honestly have to say it's when things go completely wrong in an unintended manner. If you had to ask me what is one of the best things about the Gran Turismo franchise, I would honestly say the fact that this series as a whole prides itself on being the real driving simulator, yet ever since that first release, there's always been something that has gone completely unintentionally wrong, and it's absolute perfection each and every time. Whether that's a car going 3,000 miles per hour, physics breaking, cars running outside the horsepower limit, it gives Gran Turismo as a series a lot more charm than almost anything else to do with four-wheel race cars. And would you believe your eyes, but Gran Turismo 7 has got another fresh new update, and once again something has gone completely wrong. However, be aware Polyphony are aware of this already and they do aim to fix it. So if you want to take part in the absolute mayhem and perfection of these glitches and bugs, then you will need to be very quick just in case a new update rolls around. So what happened then? Of course, one of the big changes for update 1.49 was the arrival of brand new physics. And it seems that a lot of pre-existing jelly builds, wheelie builds, and even everyday cars, as long as you tune them in a weird way, are now affected with some very weird physics. So yes, this is completely unintentional. However, it does provide some of the best gaming moments I've had so far this year, and probably in many years. It's absolutely hilarious, and for me it brings back that classic Gran Turismo charm. Now of course, jelly builds and wheelie builds are really nothing new to the Gran Turismo franchise. They've been around in almost every single entry, even in Gran Turismo 7 before all of the physics changes, even on day one. Jelly builds, wheelie builds, they were all out there and ready to be built and just providing some weird and wacky results. However, it does seem that the new physics have stretched this across many cars in the game. Even cars you wouldn't believe or typically expect to be jelly builds can now be absolutely broken beyond belief. Whether it's bouncing cars, whether it's absolutely getting rocketed into the air, popping wheelies and then flying off, there is something for everyone with this glitch. So I'll just take you through this engine swap Samba bus, for example. As you can see, we've got comfort hards, fully customizable suspension, and then you're essentially setting minimum and maximum values on front and rear. So the front will be at the minimum height, the rear at the maximum, anti-roll bar 10 across, compression 20 front, 40 rear, expansion 30 and 50, so on and so forth. I'm sure you get the example here. Camber angle I would recommend to the maximum and 0 on the toe angle. Differential doesn't matter so much. Another key thing to wheelie builds and these glitch wonky builds is putting a fully customizable racing transmission on, setting it to the lowest value, and then putting your final drive so that all of the gears are extremely short. Then you want to put the ballast as the maximum, set it all the way to the rear, and you will typically get a very wonky car. Feel free to just use this as a template to try out on every other car in the game if you do so wish. It does seem to work best on engine swap models, and be aware you may get the triangle that makes it ineligible to be driven yourself. However, you can still put the AI in the vehicle, so don't worry too much about that. You can see the results with those driving. So all of these cars do have the same template on them that I've just shown you there. It does seem to work pretty well across the board for different vehicles. So I've got a mixture of different types of physics glitched vehicles, I guess we're going to call them here. So the Samba bus, that's a pretty funny one. It'll start bouncing around before it even gets moving. There's a chance it will catch itself in the ground and then rocket itself upwards into oblivion to never ever land again. The Abarth, which is the typical sort of wheelie glitched car, always has been with the engine swap. That will now wheelie but begin to launch itself in the air, and once again, if it catches itself correctly, it will start launching itself into oblivion. However, the results aren't as good as the Samba bus. And then the BMW E36 M3 that you're seeing, that one is one of the now known hydraulic cars. Again, it'll just start bouncing around constantly as if it's on hydraulics. It's absolutely hilarious. So there's a bunch of different results you can get when doing these jelly builds and glitch builds. Again, a lot of it's going to be down to trial and error, so what might work with one car might not work with the other. In terms of general tips and tricks, honestly, I would say the older vehicles with the bouncier suspensions and the very powerful engine swaps do typically seem to work better than the more modern vehicles. However, it is pretty much universal. There is some weird way that you can pretty much break any car in the game now, but again, results may vary. Things such as hitting 12,000 miles in the Samba bus and then getting stuck in the air and never landing is now a thing. This was during the replay of this race, and although I sat at the start finish line for around about 10 minutes straight, this Samba bus never ever returned back down to the ground. It's very, very funny when this sort of thing happens, especially on certain tracks where they can go to a ridiculous boundary right up in the sky. Again, it does seem that on the new track Eiger, they will pretty much never ever land, and even if they do, they'll constantly just start bouncing around out of bounds. So give it a try, let me know some of your builds down below. However, we're not quite done yet when we're talking about the new physics. So there is one that does affect the game in a pretty bad way. Okay, we've had our fun, let's just talk about one that seems to be unintentional and definitely shouldn't really be in the game because it can affect racers. This involves turning on all your assists in the wet and driving on a dry racing compound of tyre. It is far too easy now with the assists on not to lose control. Even in heavy wet conditions with cars with ridiculous amount of horsepower, they are now controllable and barely ever aquaplane. In fact, I would say if you go on a racing dry compound of tyres and go ahead and use it in the intermediate conditions, then it's pretty much almost impossible to get that feeling like you're driving in the rain. In fact, they're so grippy that you could quite easily stay out on a dry compound of tyre during intermediate conditions and really not lose any pace at all. So this does totally seem to be down to the physics changes that this has happened, and I guess in a competitive sense it's a massive downside, meaning that almost intermediate tyres in intermediate conditions are now completely irrelevant at this point in game, and of course in that sense it's a massive downside. However, I guess there is a plus side when it comes to grinding and, kind of playing the single player portion. Again, you could probably stay out on the intermediate conditions on dry tyres and really take advantage of it there. I'll do a few tests over the next few days just to see if that is the case for every single event. Anyway, as I mentioned, Polyphony are fully aware of this. I believe about 6 hours after the update rolled out, they did tweet out to say that they are fully aware of the physics issues and that they're aiming to patch them. So if you do want to do those and, join in all the fun, or you want to take advantage of the wet weather, then honestly, I would do it now rather than later down the line. I'm assuming it'll probably take them a couple of weeks to get it patched and fixed. However, in terms of my physics deep dives and, review, honestly, I'll probably hold off on that for a while because I have a feeling they'll either revert to the old physics for the time being whilst they're fixing it, or they'll probably just patch this out and change up a bunch of the physics already. Be sure to let me know in the comments below if there's any cars you want me to try out or you just want to see more of the physics glitch. I'll be going ahead and testing a bunch more cars over the next few days. Massive thank you to all you guys watching at home. Let's all just get together and have some ridiculous Gran Turismo fun. Anyway, make the most of it whilst you can. Have a fantastic rest of your day or night wherever you may be. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, guys. Peace.